All right, we're back, and it's COMP 2007 Enterprise Computing. It's week 3, lesson 3, part 2. In the previous video that I just did with you guys, right? We were talking about creating a template, and now I've got this new template. I called it Web Forms 1. I want to publish this thing to Azure, right? Does anyone have an idea of what to do now if I wanted to go right to Azure and publish this thing? Because you want to publish your stuff to Azure. The easiest way, of course, was to publish when it says in the start area, it says, publish to Azure, do it right away, right? So when you start a new project, do it that way, right? But what about if you have a project started and you want to publish to Azure now? What do we do? How do we do that?
How many credits does it burn if you don't start the project?
What was that?
How many credits does it burn if you don't start the project?
The project, when you're burning, you only burn credits on VMs, right? Pretty much on web apps, it doesn't burn a lot per hour, right? So if you notice here, I'm logged in, right? So I'm logged in. So I'm logged in as me, right? So that's a good thing. You have to be logged in order for you to connect with Visual Studio, all right? That's the first thing. The next thing is, if I go through the menus, if you're unclear of what to do, right? So I've got my solution, as an example, and I'm going through, and you see that there's a bunch of different windows that I can choose. It's not a window that I'm missing, right? If I go to project, right, I have some other options here. I have some new folders, all this kind of stuff. So it's not on the project side. If I was going to flip through them. On the build side, right, we've got on the build, I can rebuild the solution, right? You guys find it yet? On the debug side, what was that?
Tools.
Hold on, I'm getting there. Team. I got a tools, right? Okay, tools. What do I do on the tools? Show me.
Connect to Microsoft Azure subscription.
All right, connect to my Microsoft Azure subscription. So let's do that. So you're currently signed in as this. Sign out and sign in as a different user? No, because I'm already logged in. So I'm already connected. If you're not connected, you should do that. So that connects me, right? Testing is I can run all tests. I can debug. This is a testing mode. Architecture is a diagram. Web Essentials is giving me Web Essentials. Analyze. How do I deploy to Azure, right? So what do I do when I don't know how to do something? I know I'm going to refer back to this a bunch of times, but that's what I would do. I would Google it. I would find out. So I want to deploy my website to Azure through Visual Studio, right? So deploy web app to Azure Visual Studio. So publishing to Azure, right? So how do I do that? So it tells me I need a Microsoft account, I need an Azure subscription. It talks about this. Different tasks I can do. I have to migrate my web application for a deployment to Azure. If you have a web application, you must migrate your application, and then you can publish it to Azure from Visual Studio, right? How to migrate it and publish a web application to Azure on cloud service from Visual Studio. Oh, that's good. All right, cool. So it says I got to go into web application. I'm going to convert to Microsoft Azure Cloud Service Project. This is neat, right? And then after that, when I have my web application to Azure, this is not the way I did it before. I can publish to Azure, no problem. But let's try it this way anyway. I don't mind. I'll do it this way. I like it. So I'm going to convert it to Microsoft Azure Cloud Service Project. It's not really what it is, but sure. Let's try this out. So here's my web form 1. That's what I've called it. I'm going to right-click my thing. What if I just click Publish? Can I just do that, man? Yeah. Microsoft Azure Web Apps. This is what I want, right? And I'm signed in, right? It's going to ask me to sign in again. See if I can remember my sign-in. And it's an existing web apps. It tells me some existing web apps I've already done, or I can go new, right? And here's my web app name. I'm going to call it the same name as my web form 1. I'll call it just web form 1 or web app 1, whatever. And it says, look, it's taken webform1.azurewebsites.net because it's a global name. So I got to make something that makes sense for me, right? Web form Tom. How about that? Is that taken? No. I use that one, right? Now my subscription, there's two because I have both subscriptions pay as you go. and I also have this Azure Pass. I definitely want to use my Azure Pass. Pay as you go means I have to pay, right? App service plan, right? I can create a new app service plan, or I can use my example forms from East US, which I've already got going on. Let's use that one. My resource group, right? I can use the default US, East US resource group, or I can create a new one. And I'm not going to link to any database right now. And I'm going to create. It's going to connect to Azure, and if everything goes well, blingity bling, I'll have my web app published to Azure. Let's see how it goes. Web form Tom is this going to be called, right? And web form Tom is going to be so boring, right? But it's still going to be on Microsoft Azure. Now it's going to take a few seconds to do. All right. Site name is web form Tom. My username is this. My password I'm not going to touch, right? And I'm going to basically click publish. It's going to do this thing. It's going to build it, deploy, and when it's done, it's going to load up webformtom.azurewebsites.net. Huh? And that's the steps. Did you guys get that? Really? Let's try that again. Let's do another one. I'll do another template. I'll say webformtom2, just to be even more creative, right? Right? Let's try this again. So I'm going to stop this page. I don't have to do any of this stuff. They're telling us to do on MSDN. I'll kill Bootstrap first. Actually, I'll minimize Bootstrap. I won't kill it. Okay, let's do another one. I like this one, right? But I'm going to go do another one. I'm going to go File, Close Solution. Let's do it together, guys and girls. If you didn't catch me, all right? File, New, New Project, right? And I'm going to go into, instead of going to Visual Studio Web, which is this blank application, I'm going to go into Visual C#, and where I'm going to find my my template I just made, which I called ASP.NET Web Forms with Bootstrap. That's the one I want. And if you notice, it says ASP.NET Web Forms with Bootstrap 1. I don't want that. I want to call it something else like, you know, Web Forms Tom. How about that? Web Forms Tom 2, right? Just because, right? And I press OK. Here's Web Forms Tom 2. I right-click on this thing, right? And I want to press Publish. Are you with me? Right-click Publish. And then it says where. I want to go to Microsoft Azure Web Apps. There's also other options too. There's Microsoft Azure API. I can import. I can go also do custom options, right, from into a virtual machine, and so on. I don't want that. I want to do this, right? So Microsoft Azure Web Apps. It's going to say, huh?
I only get Microsoft Azure website.
Yours might be slightly different than mine. Websites are fine.
Oh, no.
And if you notice, you might also have an earlier version of the Microsoft Azure SDK that you may have to update your Visual Studio 2013. All right? Your Visual Studio 2013 might have an update. Mine's the latest version of Azure that I got on my Visual Studio to give me the connections that I'm seeing. Yes?
I don't get any of that.
Holy crap. Okay, we'll have to come back to you in a second. Have you signed in?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm going to pick, instead of picking here's Web Form Tom, I'm going to make a new one for those people who do have this, right? I'm going to call it, it has to be a global name, Web Forms Tom 2, right? Just to make it different. It's good. Instead of pay as you go, I'm going to choose Azure Pass. It tells me to select the plan. I'm going to make it so that it's East US. I've already made one. You can also create one. That's fine. Create one that's East US. Actually, I'll do one. I'll create one for you guys. I create a new app service plan. We'll call this Web Form Tom. How about that? That's the new service plan, right? And I want to create a new resource group. Why not? We'll call this the Web Form Tom. Whatchamacallit, the service group. It's just a container. The region is going to be East US. No database. I'm going to click Create. Are you with me? For those people who don't have a problem. Luis, you're not with me?
I'm going to update it because even those, all of those options I get now.
Visual Studio 2013 Ultimate with Web Essentials Update 4 and the latest version of
I think
Azure
is my
SDK.
problem, so I'm gonna update it. I'm
Okay.
gonna follow the video.
We'll find that update in a second. All right. If I click Create, I'm going to do the same. I'm going to go through the same process. I'll click Create now, and then I'll go into Visual Studio. So I'll go into Azure so we can see it on the other end, right? And then I'm going to stop recording for a second, and I'm going to go around and make sure that everyone's got this. Because if you can't do your own web form, you're having a problem too?
Yeah, it basically says the web apps need 600 create, but it says there's nothing here. Mine is
Yours is working?
Refresh or sign out and sign back in.
Okay, it says publish method, web deploy. There's other ones too, web deploy package, FTP, file system, different options. I'm just choosing the default. Webforms tom2.scm.azurewebsites.net in 443. That's the actual server that's serving up my new website. Here's my username, default username, default password. I'm not changing anything. I could make a default, a standard username and password if I want to. I could choose validate connection. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to choose publish. And if everything goes well, it does all this stuff here. It starts web deploy. And if you notice on the bottom, it's hard to see on my system for you guys, but on the bottom, it does everything. And then I have webforms.tom.azurewebsites.net. All right, so different site. So how do I see this Azure stuff anyway? Before I stop and I go around helping you guys, it's like this. I have to go do this. Manage.windowsazure.com. Let's go there first. Manage.windowsazure.com. It'll take me into this dashboard, right, for Windows Azure. So let's do this with me, guys, so we can do this together. And I've got a bunch of different example projects and stuff here now, which I'm going to stop in a second, right? Okay, let's take a look. I've got hopefully it's not running. That would be bad. Let's take a look. Do I have any virtual machines running? No, thank God. Web apps. Here's my web apps. I have one stopped. I have the Starbase 12. It stopped. I kind of ran it before. I've got Webforms Tom 2, which I just created. Webform Tom. Those two, right? So this is what it looks like. You should see the same kind of thing on your end, right? When it's finally deployed, you see something like this, right? And thank God they're all Azure Pass, right? If I want to change this to run from running, if I click onto it, I can stop it, right? It'll stop the service. I can do this one and then stop that service too, right? So I can stop both of those, and it doesn't take long for them to stop. And you won't get charged. As long as you don't have a running VM, this is what leaks out the most, okay? Okay, let us pause the movie. I'm going to go around and make sure everyone can deploy now. I wanted to show you to capture it on the movie so you guys can see it, and then I'll update it later. And then I'll go around and make sure everyone can deploy because you need to do this for your assignments in your labs.
Can we stop it?